From the heartland of America and the gateway to the West, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm George Norrie, and welcome to Coast AM. Open lines this hour. Next hour, Jonathan Downs joins us, cryptozoology. Live from the United Kingdom we go. Well, now this could be a fascinating story as we get close to 2012, but this could happen also at any time. The global positioning system, relied on for just about everything from navigating cars and airplanes to transferring money between banks, may be threatened by powerful solar flares, according to a panel of scientists. They say that GPS receivers have become widely used in recent years, using satellite signals in navigating airplanes, ships, automobiles, and in using cell phones, mining, surveying, other many commercial uses. The cause for their concern was an unexpected solar radio burst on December 6 that affected virtually every GPS receiver on the lighted half of the Earth. Some receivers had a reduction in accuracy, while others completely lost the ability to determine position. Solar activity rises and falls in 11-year cycles, with the next peak expected in 2011. That's pretty darn close to 2012, isn't it? Well, good news for the Brits. British officials say that within hours they expect Iran to make good on its promise to release 15 British sailors and Marines and hope their journey back to London would begin within hours. Well, they are now at the Tehran airport ready to take off. The British Foreign Office confirmed that its ambassador to Iran had visited with the military personnel and reported that they were all in good health. Prime Minister Tony Blair welcomed the announcement by the Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad that said the 15 troops seized 13 days ago would be freed, and said that he bore no ill will toward the Iranian people. Ahmadinejad's surprise announcement came at a news conference when he was pinning a medal on the chest of the Iranian Coast Guard commander who intercepted the sailors and Marines, and that's when he made his announcement that this was a gift to the British people. Security surrounding the Dalai Lama has been tightened after reports of an attempt by an al-Qaeda-linked terrorist organization to assassinate the exiled Tibetan spiritual leader. A three-tiered security ring has been thrown around the 72-year-old Buddhist head who lives in India in the Himalayan foothills. They're very concerned that they're going to try to get to him. Not only has the highly controversial anthrax vaccine returned as mandatory for members of the U.S. military, but now a medical expert who testified before Congress on the dangers of those shots is warning that under some circumstances, you could be facing government-ordered anthrax vaccinations. Dr. Merrill Nass, a diplomat of the American Board of Internal Medicine, says that there could, if there were another anthrax attack, such as the one that apparently arrived in the offices of 2001 at the U.S. Senate office and other offices, that such an order could be legal and technically possible. And, you know, in Phoenix, that 27-year-old man who has tuberculosis, he's still in a jail cell with a ventilation system that keeps germs from escaping. He's locked up indefinitely, maybe for the rest of his life since last July. He hasn't been charged with a crime. He just has a drug-resistant strain of tuberculosis that is virtually untreatable, and he didn't take the proper precautions to protect the public. So in addition to open lines, I'd like to ask you two questions. Would you take a controversial anthrax shot? Or what are you going to do if they force you to take it? And then what do you think of this fellow who's behind bars? He is a menace to society, I guess. In Trenton, New Jersey, it took nearly 7 hours, the demolition of a bathroom and a sturdy extension ladder, for rescue workers to remove a more than 700-pound woman from her home there. Rescue workers arrived at the woman's home about 5:45 p.m. on Monday in response to reports that she had fallen and injured herself in the second-floor bathroom. They didn't get her out until midnight. The undertaking ended up involving dozens of fine emergency medical responders and firefighters from Trenton, New Jersey, and neighboring cities. Firefighters eventually had to dismantle the toilet and radiator and then saw out part of the bathroom wall and window to create a large enough space to move the woman out. Well, as promised, open lines for you now for this entire hour. Here they are. West of the Rockies, 800-618-8255. East of the Rockies, 800-825-5033. First-time caller line, 818-501-4721. And here's the wild card line number, 818-501-4109. I'm George Norrie, and this is Coast to Coast AM. Well, and welcome back to Coast. I'm George Norrie. We've got open lines for you this hour, and let's go right to them. Wild card line, you're up with us. Hello there.
Hi, George.
Hi.
This is Mary from Independence, and no, I would not take the Amtrak vaccination.
You will not take it. Now, what
No.
if? What are you going to? Okay, so they may take you away. They may put you in jail if you don't want to take it. You going to fight them?
Of course, wouldn't you, George?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That is my right. Right?
I'm not taking a vaccine that I don't want to. I'm not getting chipped.
That's right.
Unless I want to. And I
That's
don't.
right. What happened to our rights?
Now, what about the guy with tuberculosis? What do you think of him?
Well, I think there is a vaccine for that man, but why they're doing this is beyond me. They have, they could try everything underneath the sun. They've sent people to space. Why can't they help this one man?
So they've isolated him. They've put him away. He can't. Yeah. He's in prison for. They say
Do you think
virtually
that's right?
Forever. It's a tough call. First of all, I wish that there were a better place to confine the poor guy.
Yeah.
But, they ordered him. They told him. They said, you know what, you've got to wear a mask if you're going to be out there in public. I don't know how many people would still want to be around him.
Well,
if you knew he had this infectious tuberculosis and he's sitting there with a mask in front of you, you'd probably run away. I think I would, wouldn't you?
Well, George, do you remember years ago they had hospitals for people that had TB?
That was a little before my time.
Okay, well, they had hospitals that had tuberculosis, I think maybe because of so many immigrants that are coming in, that have probably this, infectious disease, I think maybe they should start maybe building a hospital, but treating this man the way they are, I don't think it's right.
All right, that's a good point.
Thank you.
All right, appreciate you being part of the program. East of the Rockies. You're on the air, huh?
This is Jeff from Ferguson, Missouri.
Hey, Jeffrey, how are you?
Doing pretty good. A little chilly here, as you know.
Yes, the temperatures have plummeted in St. Louis. Very strange.
Oh, yeah. First, I hope I didn't get you upset with my 9/11 emails.
No, I take all emails, Jeff. You know that. Nothing upsets me.
All right, well, my comment is about first, I would research the stuff about the Anthrax Act before I'd make up my mind.
Okay, and if you made up your mind that it wasn't safe, would you take it?
Here's how I figure it. You're either one way you're dead if you get it, you're dead. You may be dead if you take the shot.
Darned if you do and darned if you don't.
Yes, but my main comment is about the recent Iran hostage.
Yeah, what do you think of that?
Well, I was just reading a story on a conservative news site. I don't want to get the site out on the air. That the decision to release him may have had something to do with that third U.S. aircraft carrier heading to the region.
Well, it may have been. I also think it's pretty brilliant to try to get the Brits behind Iran. And I think, by saying this is a gift to the British people, you've been good to us. It's going to be difficult when the time comes if there's going to be a mounted attack on Iran.
Well, we all know.
The Brits may not want to get involved now.
Well, we know this is. Anyone with half a brain realized that was all propaganda.
On both sides.
Yeah, the video and all that stuff. Wasn't that technically illegal, too?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, well, what do you think about this April 6th date regarding Iran? Are you familiar with it?
Well, what do you mean, the sanctions again?
No, there's been an internet rumor for the last couple of weeks of a U.S. planned preemptive strike. Oh,
Jeffrey, I don't comment on those things, on those rumors. I make my own guesses based on my intuition. But, those dates that have been, it was March 22nd, and they keep pushing it back. So take internet rumors with a grain of salt. First-time caller line, you're on the air with us. Hi there. Hello?
Yes, I'm Nick from Arkansas.
Hi.
I have two things here. A long time ago, you had a talker on that was talking about Freemasonry. I've been trying to call on since then, but I had never got on. But Freemasonry is one of the oldest organizations known to man.
Yes,
and
it is.
He was saying that it was part of the Illuminati and stuff. And I've been a member for going on 20 years, and I've never, ever, and I'm higher up in the organization, and I know quite a few of the Grand Masters of Arkansas and Oklahoma, Louisiana, and different places. And there's no way that, what they're talking about, us being devil worshippers and stuff, there's no way none of that is possibly true at all. That'd be just like saying we're from outer space. I mean, it's just not any grounds, for it.
So many people who are extremely powerful, who may still be, who may be Masons, and I think a lot of people started assuming because they were Masons that the Masons were behind all the things that they did, for example. And,
right.
Because you're a Mason doesn't mean you're a member of the Illuminati.
Right. Well, I mean, that's like saying you're a Mason and a member of VFW. You can be a Mason, be a member of many organizations.
Right. I agree with that.
But I mean, it's one of the best organizations, charitable. We give thousands and thousands of dollars just locally here away for scholarships. Our little lodge only has 57 members.
Sure.
And,
no, I agree. However, would you agree that there could be members of the Illuminati who are Masons?
Well, yeah, but that's like saying there's Republicans who are Masons and Republicans who are members of the Illuminati. But the way that they're picturing it is not that way, though. They're just saying all of us are that way.
I know you guys have done great things for people. Great things.
Well,
the Shriners, all of
the
it.
The Shriners, the Burns clinics, the blind. We've done great things for many. But the second note on this guy with the tuberculosis is untreatable.
Yeah.
That's like having somebody with AIDS, and the guy said, "Well, I'm not going to protect myself and protect you. I'm just going to go out and spread it." You've got to keep that person isolated or keep him from contaminating the rest of the world with it. Otherwise, he is a harmful, just like a walking time bomb.
So you think they're justified to keep him locked up?
If he's not going to take care of himself and they, keep a watchful eye on him, yes.
Okay.
So they are protecting us from him.
All right. Thanks for your opinion on that. Let's go to our west of the Rockies. Welcome to the program. Hello.
Hello, George. How are you this evening?
Good. Thank you.
This is Chad from Selah, Washington. And I'd like to speak with you about the vaccinations they're about to push on all of us.
Yeah. And it's going to happen, I'm afraid.
Well, that's up to us, because if no one takes it, just like the national ID that we're going to have in 2008 in May, if no one takes it, then what do? What can they do?
They can't lock up the entire population, that's for sure.
Not at all. Now, if people get in line and decide that they are going to take it, then yes, it's going to put pressure on those who don't want to, but feel that they must follow along. But that's the key. We actually have more power than we realize, and we need to, maybe it's time to take a stand, and this is an excellent issue to do it, because I tell you, my father was DOD Naval Intel, and some of the things that they give you in the military are, they're just experimenting. When they say they're practicing
and it seems that every year they go from one fad disease to another. I'm still waiting for this bird flu pandemic that they say was going to occur. And now, it's been years now. And I've always been saying it's not going to happen.
Well, we just need to make a decision. I figure if we've all been given free will by our Creator, then who is the federal government to say, you know what, that's a mistake, and we'll make your decisions for you?
But they sneak those laws in, don't they? They get them passed.
Oh, you let them. Now, another thing about the gentleman with tuberculosis that is being isolated.
It's a tough call, isn't it?
Yes and no. Whales, when they become infected with a disease and they know they're dying, they will beach themselves in order to avoid infecting the rest of their population. Now, if whales can be so considerate, why can't we?
So what are you saying? The guy should do himself in?
No, but it would seem to me that he could take his own precautions without being forced to be incarcerated or whatever.
That's the problem. In his case, he didn't take any precautions.
Exactly.
They told him, wear a mask if you're going out in the public. And not that I would think a mask would help you, but he didn't do anything.
Well, that's my point. If whales can be so considerate as to not infect the rest of their population because they care about one another, then surely we can too.
So you think they were justified to put this guy away?
No, I think that he should have taken the precautions to avoid infecting other people.
But if he does not, what are you going to do? Let him walk the streets of Phoenix and breathe on people?
Well, I can't say that I agree with that either. No, I can't say that.
That's why this is a tough call. I mean, I hate the fact that government can say, you're sick, we're putting you in quarantine, we're putting you away, so no one can ever see you again as long as you have this disease. I hate the fact that they can do that. But the fact that he has not done anything to protect others in that area, that's pretty dangerous too. So, on one hand, I don't like the government forcing. On the other hand, you got to do something about it. It's not a great situation. It's a catch-22. Wildcard line, you're up with us. Hello there.
Hi, good evening, George. This is Melissa from Clinton, Michigan.
Hi, Melissa. You sound just like my sister Gail. Almost identical. Everybody, that's what my sister Gail sounds like. Go ahead, Melissa.
Well, hello, everybody. My first thing is I've been following the Daniels tuberculosis case fairly closely because things like this, when the government tends to overstep its own boundaries, it really makes me uptight, and it worries me because I'm young, and I've got probably another 40 years, to live, and
let's
I
hope
just like
so.
to keep, crossing my fingers. But here's the deal. First of all, Daniels, and I have to correct myself. At first, I had said before I came on that he was an immigrant. He's not. He, as far as I know, he is American, but he's lived in Russia for 15 years. Mm-hmm. He knew he was sick when he got here to America. He came here after he was diagnosed to, quote unquote, get better treatment. So to me, this is not only an issue of disease control, but an issue of border security as well as immigration laws. People aren't being tested for tuberculosis. I have a lot of friends who are in massage therapy here in the Metro Detroit area. Everyone has to get tested for tuberculosis because you're working with the public. So it's okay for people to just come in and not be tested for these diseases.
Well, and I know here in St. Louis, restaurant workers in the city are compelled to take hepatitis A shots. They
Absolutely.
Because they touch food. They come into contact with people. But
Absolutely.
see, but that's a different, I think that's a different decision. That's a government saying, look, we're trying to protect the public, and if you don't want to work in this business, then you don't have to take the shot. But if you're going to work in this business, handle food, come in contact with people, then you need to get the shot. Again, that is on the extreme level of control, but it sounds like it makes sense, doesn't it?
It does make sense, but it's kind of, in just my opinion, comparing the tuberculosis case to the anthrax issue is sort of apples and oranges, because anthrax, and I'm not a scientist here, but tuberculosis is highly contagious. The whole anthrax thing is a matter of it being unleashed.
Yeah, but here's the problem with that. One, we're all suspicious of everything these days. And, I question, we've got 10 million doses, by the way, for anthrax, emergency doses put away. You know what? I want to know, again, because we talked about this a couple of years ago, how much does it cost? who's the company that made it, who's behind the company. I mean, is there graft and corruption going on all over the place? You know, the problem is you don't know if they would create this anthrax scare or situation merely to make money on all of us. And that's also part of the danger. I'll be back in a moment. Open lines continue this entire hour. Next hour, cryptozoology, creatures. You know, today was one of those days I woke up and said, gosh, I'm glad we've got Coast to Coast on today. I mean, it's just like I feel every night. It's just a privilege presenting this program to you. It really is. I can't believe it's already Wednesday. This week just keeps buzzing by, doesn't it? Next hour, Jonathan Downs joins us as we talk about creatures on this planet. He is just a home run when it comes to cryptozoology. He's in the category of Lauren Coleman, two individuals I respect greatly. So we're going to have a fascinating program tonight. But when I come right back, it's more open lines on Coast to Coast AM. All right, let's go back to the phones. We'll take the ones that have been waiting the longest. You're on the air with us. Hi there.
Hey, George. This is Jim from Marshall County, Alabama. Fascinating discussion tonight. Very important to think about individual rights when it comes to something as important to this. Got a couple of comments.
Sure.
Back in Desert Storm, I was in the Marine Corps. I was stationed out at Pendleton, and I was brought up on Article 15, which we call office hour charges for denying a couple of vaccinations, violating the battalion order. Now, there were enough of us, I think between 100 and 120, officers included, that refused to take it, and the colonel rescinded all of the charges. So it can be done even in the military. Especially, you know how the Marine Corps is about that. We don't question battalion orders. Comment number 2, with regard to this fellow that's being incarcerated, I'm a law and order guy. I have a family. I'm concerned with, the health of American citizens. And I really think this guy needs to be quarantined. But the problem that I have is I don't like him being held by the criminal justice system without having been brought up on any legal charges. Now, the comparison that I use is a few years ago we had a very serious medical problem with HIV. And can you imagine the uproar that it would have caused incarcerating people just because they were potentially HIV people because of their sexual orientation? Wouldn't have flown at all. But in the aftermath of all of that, you had some states, especially southern states, Georgia I know is one of them, that if you knowingly had that disease and then you infected somebody else, then what? Then the legal system moved in and incarcerated you. I don't think this man should be incarcerated unless he has violated a crime. If the legislatures haven't initiated anything, then, should he be quarantined in a hospital? Yes, but I think it's very, very dangerous to allow our criminal justice system, especially the West Coast judges, to get the power to be able to incarcerate these people prior to them violating laws.
So what you would be a little more appropriate to accept would be the fact that if they had a special place put aside for this guy that wasn't a jail cell, but maybe some kind of ward in a hospital, and they picked him up and said, look, you're not doing anything to protect yourself or anybody else. You got to go away for a while.
Well, then the legislatures of these respective states have got to enact a law, promulgate it, and then say, citizens of these states, if you violate this law, then the judicial system will come into play. I feel very uncomfortable about the judicial system presuming itself upon people that are still presumed innocent of crimes. I don't like this situation. I think it's very dangerous.
All right, thanks for sharing that with us. Let's go to our West of the Rockies line. You're on the air. Hi there.
How you doing, George?
I'm good, thanks.
Well, this is another George.
Well, hey, George.
Not in rebuttal to what your last gentleman said, but if a doctor has told you that you're infectious, that you can harm other people if you don't wear a mask, and they violate that, they don't care about other people's rights, then I feel that they should be incarcerated. they should be contained, hospital, whatever is necessary, because if they knowingly are infecting the rest of us, which we don't know who they are, they're just a friend, they're a stranger, I'm just talking to them, they know they are harming me. They know they are causing me to get a disease, and they are not willing to take the responsibility. I kind of lean to the, like STD, where I know I'm going to harm someone, and I don't care. I'm not interested in protecting anybody because I'm only interested in myself.
Well, see, in this fellow's particular case, they asked him numerous times, take care of yourself, put a mask on, and he didn't do it.
That's exactly what I'm saying. So if we have a person or people that don't care about anyone else, then doesn't society have a responsibility to protect us from them? Because they don't care.
Well, I agree with that. And, this is what Daniels, his name's Robert Daniels, this is what he said in a telephone interview last month. He says, I'm being treated worse than an inmate. I'm all alone. 4 walls. Even the door to my room has been locked. I haven't seen my reflection in months. Man, he is going to be in there for a long, long time. First-time caller line, you're up with us. Hi there.
Hi, this is Nick from Cleveland. I was just calling about the man who was quarantined with tuberculosis.
Sure, go ahead, Nick.
I think we have to worry about suicide bombers right now. What if we have to worry about those that might be walking amongst us infected with the intent to infect others?
Oh, let me tell you, the next wave of terrorism, those who commit suicide, they'll get them infected with all kinds of diseases and try to have them infiltrate.
Sure, exactly. Just bring them all in, and we're in a big ream of trouble.
I mean, this is look. It's as I said before, Nick. This is a rough case. I mean, on one hand, you don't want government to interfere. You don't want them to put somebody away in a jail where this guy's been locked up. On the other hand, how much warning do you have to give the guy to do something to protect the public before you have to, clamp down on him?
You're exactly right. He was given the warning not to. He has to protect himself and others, and he didn't do it. I think he's where he belongs.
I think I saw today, changing the subject for just a moment, almost saw my very first UFO. I got to tell you, I was like a kid in a candy store. I'm driving down Highway 4064, which is the big highway in St. Louis, one of the big ones. And I spot miles away in the sky this huge rectangular-shaped object. And the length of the rectangle is vertical, all right? It's up and down, way up in the sky. Huge. I'm estimating it must have been 150 feet across and 200 or 250 feet long. Good size. And I see this thing in the wind, and it's just way out there. And as I get closer, I see this little tiny plane pulling it. It was a banner, a massive banner for a cell phone company pitching their product. And I saw this little plane just pulling it away, and it was so disappointing. I mean, I really thought I saw something. Originally, I thought maybe it was a helicopter from a distance because I knew it wasn't a plane. And then I saw the size of the rectangle, and I said, my God, this is something. And then the closer I could get, I saw the little plane pulling it, and then I got really close to it, and, you could just see it trailing off. That was disappointing. I wonder, though, how many UFO cases are based on things like that just are real, natural occurrences. Wildcard line, you're on the air with us. Hello? Hello? Hi, go ahead, please.
I've never met anybody that have this, but I have a marking of a pentagram on my left hand, and I don't know. I've tried to get my palm read by a friend there, and they started. Yeah.
How'd you get that? Were you born with it?
Yeah. I mean, it's all natural markings. It's not no alterations or nothing. It's just part of my hand. I mean, it don't stick out, it don't glow, nothing like that, but it's very noticeable.
Now, tell me a little bit about your life. Anything unusual ever happened to you?
Not really. I don't know. I'm sensitive to, things kind of like supernatural sensitive. I could feel when, I don't know, in a place where somebody might have died or an accident or something like that. I'm very sensitive to that stuff, but other than that, nothing unusual.
And whereabouts on your hand is it?
It's in the palm of my hand, on my left hand.
A pentagram. Now, you've shown this to other people. What do they say?
They can spot it pretty easy. Some people freaks them out, but because, I mean, it's just a perfect pentagram on my hand. I've tried having my palm read before, and the person that started reading it, they just stopped and said, I don't want to read no more.
You're not a warlock, are you?
No. Just a normal person. And that's about it. I was wondering if you was going to do any shows
well,
about
I'll tell you one thing we'll do. I'll have some people do some research, and they'll fast blast me, and I'll give you the data if I get it before I'm off the air with this series of open lines. If not during the break, in the mid-break, I'll pass it on to you to see if there's anything and what it means if you have a pentagram, which is a natural part of your body. I mean, I've never heard of anything like that. I've heard of people with strange birthmarks and things, but nothing shaped like that. Let's go east of the Rockies. Welcome to Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hey, my name's Joey from Augusta, home of the Masters. Hey, I was just calling about, I see something suspicious about Ahmadinejad, who releases the 15 British soldiers and says that they're a gift to the Britons. I don't see it really as a gift, although I'm happy that they got released, but they're hostages. They were taken by the Iranians.
I think he thinks his gesture was the gift.
I see what you're saying, and I personally think that the guy is a lunatic. I don't know what kind of plot he's got.
He may be as crazy as a fox, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think also, if I may, but I think that I believe that global warming is happening. I don't believe that global warming is happening to the extent that many scientists say that it is. Of course, I'm just a regular guy. But it just seems to me that if you were a scientist, you would be skeptical until something was proven and absolute, like turning on the light. You know it's going to happen. You can't say with certainty that global warming is happening, and that's what I think is so creepy about that also, is that all of these scientists want to come to a consensus that something is happening, may or may not be man-made. I believe that the planet may be warming, it may be cooling, but I don't believe that it's man-made.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing I wanted you to point out. I believe global warming is occurring.
Right.
I think the argument is why. Right. And as you say, you may be just an average guy, but let me tell you something. Your opinions are just as pointed as a scientist's because they really don't know either. My take, like you, is that this is a natural cycle. It's a natural occurrence. Again, I've no doubt that global warming is happening. You could just see and witness it by what's happening on the glaciers and the ice shelves and things like that. But
just to prove it.
This entire solar system is warming up.
Right.
The ice caps on Mars
and just
are melting.
The solar system that you were talking about in 2011, 2011. But
2012.
I think also that if you were to try to estimate the man-made effect on global warming, first of all, you would have to be able to decrease or to take away the natural phenomenon that is global warming. You would have to take away all of the natural effects that happen and then estimate the man-made effort caused by global warming. And there's no scientist that can take the natural effects of CO2 greenhouse gases. You just can't estimate that. So to me, you just really cannot prove how man is causing it.
You're right, and there are many scientists who are beginning to agree with you.
Well, I'm glad that hopefully there are some politicians that will stick to this global warming. I do believe that it's just a ploy. To be honest with you, I think that it's part of the Illuminati or some sort of plot to take control and to depopularize this planet. And I know it's going to happen biblically. I'm a Christian. I know that sort of thing is going to happen. I don't know.
Well, let me tell you, tomorrow night's program will be with Father Andrew Wingate as he talks about end times, and some of the things he will tell you is one of our little scary programs. And then Friday we'll try to lighten things up a little bit. I did get an open line call last Friday. Somebody asked for a superhuman hotline. Superhumans who have done incredible things. That's not a bad idea. I think we may do that this weekend in addition to open lines. Let's go next to our West of the Rockies line. Hello there. You're on Coast to Coast.
Hello.
Yes. Welcome to the show.
Hi, this is Murphy, and I'm here in California, but I live in the Phoenix area, and I work in the medical field.
Have you heard about this story, Murph?
I have, and I'll tell you what the law says. In all of the states I know have a law in place, and it's usually used in the mental health field, but it doesn't differentiate. It can be used for any purpose. And the law states that if you pose a danger to yourself or to anyone else, you can be hospitalized or incarcerated. I know that Arizona has it. I know that California has it, and I know the other states have it as well. It just you usually hear it in the mental health area, but it can be used for anything.
Well, let me tell you, a fellow by the name of Ross Upshur, he is the Joint Center Director for Bioethics at the University of Toronto, and he says anybody with drug-resistant tuberculosis should be detained if they are uncooperative. And apparently, this Robert Daniels fellow has been uncooperative and was warned several times by doctors to wear a mask in public. And I got to tell you, I mean, if I were at the grocery store and I'm in line behind the guy who's got a mask on, and I've seen that. In some cases, I think the guy's doing it because he's got allergies or maybe he gets sick a lot and he's trying to protect himself. I've never thought about him having some incredible virus or disease. But I got to tell you, if I were behind this Robert Daniels guy in a store, even if he had a mask on, I'd be a little queasy about sitting around and standing by this guy. I really would. This is a drug-resistant form of TB, and I don't think I'd be around. And that's how panic starts, by the way. If I ran out of that store, I bet everybody else would too. The place would just go crazy. Well, if you need to email me, just make it simple. George at Coast2TO. You got to do that. Coast2coastam.com. Send me your emails. I look at them all. I respond to a few. Again, if you're interested in our book, Worker in the Light, which you can get on Amazon. Well, in reference to our call last hour, some people have sent me some fastballs saying that if a person has a pentagram etched on their body, on their hand, chances are they are a werewolf. Now, I'm not sure the caller was a werewolf, but it is pretty fascinating, isn't it? Creatures. Jonathan Downs joins us next. He's a cryptozoologist on Coast to Coast AM. Jonathan Downs spent much of his childhood in Hong Kong, surrounded by age-old Chinese superstitions and a dazzling, diverse range of exotic wildlife, he soon came infected with the twin passions for exotic zoology and the paranormal. He began writing professionally in the late 80s and has written 17-plus books now. In 1992, he founded the Center for Fortean Zoology in the aim of coordinating research into mystery animals, bizarre and strange animal behavior, and his own particular love of zooform phenomena, paranormal entities, which apparently only appear to be animals. He has searched for lake monsters at Loch Ness, pursued sea serpents in Birdman and Cornwall, chased big cats across West Country moorland, and in 1998 went to Latin America in search of the grotesque Chupacabra. He's our guest tonight on Coast to Coast. Jonathan, welcome back.
Good evening, George. How are you?
God, it's been a couple of years. Goes by too fast, Jonathan.
3 years now, mate. 3 years.
At least, yeah. My gosh. It just clicks. How have you been?
Oh, it's been a very strange 3 years. I mean, an awful lot's happened. We've done, oh Lord, half a dozen expeditions. We've moved house. When we last spoke to you, we were based in this little house in the middle of a suburban housing estate in a city called Exeter. Whereas now, my father died just over a year ago, and I inherited the old family home. So I've now got this so the Centre for Fortean Zoology is now in this lovely old big house out in the country, and most of the house is over 200 years old. Some of it's 100 or 200 years older than that, and it's haunted. And we've got big stone floors and big oak beams. It's a very strange place. It's lovely to be out here, and we're building a museum at the moment. So a lot of stuff's happened.
Well, good for you. You know, this subject matter continues, I think, to perplex and amaze. We've had a couple of cases in this country over the past year of possible chupacabras, very strange wolf animal-like creatures that have no hair, bluish-gray in color. They are found dead, but nobody really can figure out what they are. They speculate, of course, that they could be hybrids between a wolf and a dog or something, but strange creatures everywhere. We're going to talk about many with you tonight, Jonathan, many indeed. But, you know, I just had a story on where a caller last hour before you came on has a pentagram on his hand. It's right there in the palm of his hand. And some people are telling me that it's the sign of someone being a werewolf. In your work as a cryptozoologist, do you investigate the myths and mysteries of some of these creatures, like a werewolf or, you know, like a vampire? Or do you primarily try to investigate real animals, like Earth-type animals?
No, we do both. In fact, my organisation and I, we actually work with the British police forces. And so we've actually worked with the British police to investigate animal mutilation cases. And I've been called in on a couple of very strange cases where animals, at least, have been completely drained of blood. So no, the whole vampire thing and the shape-shifting werebeast thing, something that interests me a lot.
All right, we'll talk about all of them tonight, and we'll do a little review on some of the work that you were doing 3 years ago when you were on the program as well. The issues that are out there today, Sasquatch, the Loch Ness Monster, the abominable snowman, which could be a Sasquatch, Chupacabra. Do you ever also get reports of dragons or dinosaurs on this planet?
Dragons, yeah. I mean, the thing is with dinosaurs is a lot of people love to believe that there are still dinosaurs on the planet. But I'm afraid, apart from birds, we all know that birds are actually the descendants of dinosaurs. But apart from birds, all the other dinosaurs died out 65 million years ago. Almost certainly as a result of a meteor hitting the Earth. But there are reports of dragon-like creatures from all over the world to the very day. And last summer, for example, a team from the Centre for Fortean Zoology went to the West African country of the Gambia, looking into modern-day sightings of a creature which the locals call Ninkilanka, which is supposed to be a giant snake with a crest on its head that has magical
How big?
Well, some of the locals talk about it being anything up to 60 or 70 feet long.
Oh, my gosh.
But then again, you've got to remember as well, they've imbued it with an amazing sort of magical powers that it can kill by just looking at you. However, sometimes under special circumstances, they'll come out of the river and do magic for you and stuff. But if you scratch away the surface from the legends, I think there's a very real body of evidence that in recent historic times there was a damn great big snake, maybe 20, 30 foot rather than 50 or 60 foot, that lived in that part of Africa. And the stories now seem to be coming from further up the Gambia River, so there might well still be such a creature in places like Guinea or Mali, in the less explored parts of West Africa, more inland. So it's probably now extinct in the Gambia.
Jonathan, what size animal could this dragon-like serpent or snake swallow if it's 60 or 70 feet long?
God knows. I really did. To be quite honest, that's a question I can't answer, because as you know, some of the biggest animals on this planet eat some of the smallest food.
Yeah?
And the largest mammal that has ever existed on this planet is the blue whale. And the blue whale can be over 100 feet long. I think the biggest one ever found was 109 feet long. And it eats little squid-like creatures called krill, which are only a couple of inches long. So I don't know. I would assume that an animal, but I would assume if it is like all the other snakes on the planet, it would probably eat something the size of small to medium-sized deer or antelope, small to medium-sized wild boar, people.
Do you get reports of creatures like Mothman, reports that we have here in the United States out there?
Yes, I mean, Mothman is it's a bit like dragons. Every country on Earth, every human population on Earth, from the Inuit Eskimos right down to the native Australians, they all have stories of dragons. And they all have stories of Mothman as well. So whereas in North America you've got Mothman, in Britain you've got Owlman, which I've actually written a book about. We can talk about that later if you like.
Sure.
In West Africa you've got a creature called Sasabonsam, which is the same type of winged humanoid entity with red glowing eyes. In East Africa you've got something called Popobwa, which is supposed to be like a monkey or an ape with bat-like wings and red glowing eyes. You've got the Tengu of Japan. You know, these things are found all over the world.
Why are these creatures kind of hidden away? I mean, a few people see them, in this case here, in this country, several people report seeing Bigfoot or Sasquatch walking across a road or down in a ravine, but they're not widespread. Why is that? Because we're not talking about a lot of these creatures?
Well, we're actually talking about three totally different types of creatures. Firstly, you've got the cryptids, the bona fide unknown animal species, which are still awaiting discovery. And the reason they're awaiting discovery nearly always is because they're rare, they're elusive, they're shy, and quite often they're quite intelligent, so they're quite good at hiding from mankind. The second lot of these things you've got is the pseudo-cryptids. They are known species of animal that are in the wrong place or at the wrong time. Things we know they exist, but it's like all the way across North and South America, you have got, at least until the Europeans arrived, you had cougars or mountain lions. But now you have sightings of them all across Europe, where there's never been any, but they've escaped from captivity, and now they've established themselves into the wilds here. And so they are unknown animals, although we know what they are. We don't know how they're fitting into the environment or where they came from. Then the third lot you've got other zooform phenomena. They're the weird things. They're the things like Mothman or Owlman or the weird Bigfoot-type creatures people see come getting out of UFOs, the ones that seem to appear and disappear at will, and the devil dogs and the Chupacabra, and all these really weird, strange creatures that really don't seem to be ordinary animals as we understand them. They appear to be something far more esoteric and weird.
Where would you put the thunderbirds, these massive birds, under these three categories?
George, it's one of the things that makes you such a good radio interviewer is that you have a habit of asking very difficult questions. Now, the thunderbirds are like so many of these creatures. They seem to fit into more than one of the categories. It's like Bigfoot in many ways. Bigfoot, you get some reports of Bigfoot which appear to just be a flesh and blood creature, a new species of giant ape. But then again, you get other ones, like I said just now, they have reports of getting in and out of UFOs or appearing and disappearing at will. They seem to be much more sort of apparition-like. And it's the same with the thunderbirds. Some of the thunderbird reports, especially the ones from Illinois and Indiana, do appear to be giant birds. But some of the ones which are from the southern states, particularly southern Texas, do seem to be much weirder. They're the ones that seem to have some sort of paranormal...
Yes.
Paranormal powers, some sort of weird... They seem to just have this weird, quite unsettling side to them. And we've actually just published a book about thunderbirds. This is somebody you ought to have on your show sometimes. A guy called Ken Gerard, who's a researcher from Texas. He's just done a book for us called Big Bird. And he's fantastic. He spent quite a lot of the last few years traveling around the southern Texas border areas, talking to the people who were involved in the big Big Bird flap of 1976, 77. And he's somebody I think you ought to think about having on sometimes, a damn good researcher.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We will do that again. And he's in Texas, you say?
He's in Texas. I can email you contact details. It's a good bloke. There's also another guy I know. I think he's in Illinois, because just after and this is actually all your fault, in fact. I was on your show 3 years ago.
Right.
Well, I made friends after your show with a girl called Jessica. Hi, Jessica, if you're listening. She was listening to your show last time I was on, and she invited me to go over and visit her in Marshall, Illinois. And I went over there, and while I was there, I had a long telephone conversation with an author from Illinois called Scott Maruna. And he's been researching the Big Bird reports from Illinois that appear to be real flesh and blood animals. And he's got some incredibly interesting data. So he's somebody else I recommend to you. He's a good bloke. I've never actually met him, but he's a really, really interesting chap.
Okay, definitely. Get us the information, the contact information, and we'll jump right on it.
I recommend Scott as well. He wrote a book about the Mad Gasser of Mattoon, which you may have heard of. That's quite an interesting story. And he wrote the sort of definitive book on that. Nice guy.
You have just covered some incredible things in your life. Of all your investigations, and we're going to talk about many of them tonight, Jonathan, is there one investigation that stands out from the others? One investigation that keeps you baffled and perplexed?
My favorite investigation of all time is Puerto Rico. As you actually said in your incredibly generous introduction, I did an expedition to Puerto Rico looking for the Chupacabra in 1998. But I actually went back in July 2004, and I'm planning to go back again next year. And the story of the Chupacabra, it's an incredibly complex one. And I've uncovered something which I think might explain some of this.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
Can we share some of that?
Yes, of course you can. I think some people are going to be disappointed, but other people, I think, are going to be incredibly intrigued.
Well, some people are disappointed because I guess most of us like to clutch on to the weird. We always want to hope that there's something so much strange and bizarre about something, and then it might be right under our nose, and I guess we get frustrated with that.
Well, actually, I'm hoping, because we're talking to a huge audience tonight, and the thing is, usually, because I'm based in England is a relatively small country, but the United States is such an enormous country. There's going to be an awful lot of people listening, and Are we taking callers tonight?
Yes, we will. In our last hour, our final hour of 3, we'll take phone calls.
Well, if there's anybody listening out there who's in Puerto Rico or who has lived any length of time in Puerto Rico, I'd be really interested in your comments on this.
And we do reach Puerto Rico, so we will see if anybody from there calls you with this.
Well, hello, Canalvanos. If there's any of you there, especially if any of you are farmers on the big grass fields just above the city, have a listen to this, because I'd be really interested for you to call in later.
What is it about the Chupacabra that got you fascinated and interested?
Because it doesn't make sense. On the face of it, the story makes no sense at all. Because I'm a scientist, and although I do believe in the paranormal, I believe in the paranormal grudgingly, and I do my best to explain everything within accepted scientific frames of reference as well as I can before I finally say, nah, we've got off into X-Files territory. And at least on the face of it, the Chupacabra doesn't make sense. But the thing which I've discovered over the years is that the Chupacabra is not one thing, not just one single thing. In fact, that's something you can say about an awful lot of unknown animals. For example, 100 years ago, sailors and fishermen across the world believed in an animal called the great sea serpent. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until the mid-1950s that a Belgian professor called Dr. Bernard Heuvelmans, God rest his soul, he died a few years ago, and I had the honor to know him as a remarkable man. He wrote a book called In the Wake of the Sea Serpents, in which he claimed that there wasn't one creature called the sea serpent. There were at least 8 different unknown large creatures in the sea that sailors and fishermen and submarine crews saw very, very briefly, and they all assumed it was one creature, but it wasn't. It was actually 8 different creatures. And that's something I'm discovering with the Chupacabra. It's not just one phenomenon. It's a collection of actually completely disparate phenomena.
And, of course, Chupacabra means what? Bloodsucker?
Goatsucker.
Goatsucker, yeah.
Now, this is something that's interesting as well. That if you read quite a lot of the newspaper articles written about the subject, it's claiming that the Chupacabra, the name the goatsucker, is a very, very old one. But from what I can gather, the name Chupacabra was coined by a friend of mine, a guy called Ishmael Aguayo, who is the head of the civil defense teams in Canalvanas. It was coined in about 1993 or 1994 by him and a mate of his to try to give a name to whatever it was that was attacking the goats and the domestic livestock on Puerto Rico. So it is a very new phenomenon. And an awful lot of different things have been reported, which all seem to have got lumped together, if you follow me.
All right.
And I've discovered at least one of them seems to be a very, very exciting new species of animal.
Okay, let's talk about that when we come back, Jonathan. Jonathan's websites, he's got several of them, all linked up now at coasttocoastam.com. Later on, too, we'll talk about one of his books called Owlman. That's fascinating, too. So stick with us. I'm George Norrie, and this is Coast to Coast AM. Well, take advantage and get the After Dark newsletter and also get the 2 old shows, Art Bell interviews with the late Father Malachi Martin, as our gift when you subscribe and renew also your After Dark newsletter. Just call 1-888-727-5505 or go online at coasttocoastam.com. And welcome back with Jonathan Downs, our guest. Jonathan, back to the Chupacabra. I guess what was fascinating is there's no question, and even though you're going to tell us about this new creature, possibly, the fact that people were witnessing something over all these years, I guess you have to assume something's happening, right? They're not making it up. They're not seeing this.
Oh, of course. There are far too many reports to ignore them. I mean, there are some unknown animals which are only known from 1 or 2 very obscure references, but the Chupacabra has been encountered by so many thousands of people. There's obviously something going on. Now, the thing I find particularly interesting is that the well-known image of the Chupacabra, the semi-bipedal creature with the spines down its back, was first reported from the town of Canovanas in Puerto Rico in 1994. But that image then very quickly spread across the world. And whereas the first sightings, like I said, were in 1994 in Puerto Rico, within the next 2 or 3 years, similar creatures were being reported from all the way across Latin America, from as far south as Argentina to all over the Spanish-speaking parts of the States as well. I mean, there have been sightings as far north as far north as northern Arizona and northern Texas. And to me, it was obvious that one flesh and blood creature couldn't sort of come out of nowhere and spread all across such a large geographic area. So I started off my researches actually in Puerto Rico itself back in 1998, and I interviewed a lot of different people who'd either seen this creature or who'd had attacks on domestic livestock. But it wasn't until I went back 3 years ago that the whole thing began to start making sense. Now, I was in Canovanas, and on my first trip, I'd made friends with Ishmael Aguayo, who I was telling you about, who is a fantastic researcher, wonderful guy. And when I went back last time, I met up with him again. But it turned out that the killings, at least there in the Canovanas, the pure killings that had been described as being by the Chupacabra had fizzled out. They'd stopped in the late 90s. But the sightings of the spiky-backed creature continued. Now, for the first time while I was there, I actually saw some very close-up photographs of the killings, and people had told me before about attacks on goats in Canovanas, and I had assumed that just like in England anyway, that goats were quite large creatures.
Right. No, they're not. They're little.
They're not. The ones in Puerto Rico are tiny. They are really, really small creatures. The goats in England are the same size as a sheep. They're the size of a large dog. The goats that I saw in Canovanas, including the goats of two farmers that actually had attacks on their flocks, were really, really small.
They're like lambs almost, aren't they?
Yeah, they're tiny little things. And then one of the farmers who'd had a series of attacks on his livestock showed me some photographs. And they'd always told me, there's been either puncture marks in the neck or there'd been a triangular hole in the skull, where the brains had been eaten.
Huh.
And when they showed me these photographs, I finally realized what had done the killings. I'm not saying what had done every killing all the way across South America, bits of North America and the Caribbean, but what had done those particular killings in Canovanas. Because I've investigated animals all over the world, and there's no doubt about it. These diagnostic triangular holes in the skull with the brains being eaten are done by an animal called a mongoose.
The mongoose, of course, we've heard about this. So mongoose is what I think in India, in Pakistan, they used to use to attack cobras, right?
Yep, and they were introduced into Puerto Rico and various other islands of the Caribbean, and then in about 1880, 1900, in order to keep down rats.
Okay. Now, go ahead.
That doesn't explain the sighting of the weird spiky-backed creature.
Right.
Now, one of the things, but, it does explain some of the killings. It doesn't explain the weird. It doesn't explain the weird stuff.
Let's get into the weird in a moment, but with the mongoose, how does it make that triangular shape, and why does it go for the brains?
It just likes to eat them. In the same way as I like to eat chocolate, the mongoose likes to eat the brains.
All right.
But then I discovered, because when I was there, I discovered there'd been an explosion in the rat population in about 1990, and all small carnivores, their populations expand depending on how much food there is, how much food there is for them. So I'm just hypothesizing that there was an expansion in the mongoose population in the early 90s when they'd eaten most of the rats. They then turn to domestic livestock. But it doesn't explain the spiky creature, and it also doesn't explain the fact that the spiky creature is still being seen today. Then I was up in one of the hill farms, and I was talking to a pair of banana farmers, because as I'm sure you know, in Puerto Rico, bananas and plantains are one of the biggest and most important cash crops. And this farmer was telling me that it was really strange, although he'd had attacks on his livestock back in 1997, 1998, he hadn't had any attacks since, but something had been attacking his banana trees. Now, when I was a little boy in Hong Kong, I remember a friend of my late father's was the chief of police in Hong Kong, and we used to go and visit him, 3 or 4 times a year. And he was a keen gardener, and he had banana trees in his garden. And I remember one day, this was in about 1967, 68, 40 years ago, he was furiously angry because something had destroyed his banana trees. And he'd set out traps for it, and nothing had come. And then back in those days, because he was the chief of police, he could do all sorts of things he probably shouldn't have done. And he set 2 policemen out with rifles to guard his last banana tree, and they shot a porcupine. Now, in North America, the porcupines have fairly short spines, and they live in trees. But in the old world, in Africa and Asia, porcupines are larger. They have much longer spikes on their backs, not on their sides, and they live on the ground. And some of them will walk half upright. Now, there's a heck of a big change there's a hell of a evolutionary gap between the North American porcupines, the old world porcupines, and the new world porcupines. But it turns out there's one animal that was only known from one skeleton, one subfossil skeleton. It was probably about 2,000 years old. It's only known from one specimen. It looked like and appeared to be exactly the same as one of the old world porcupines. And it was found in a cave in Puerto Rico in the 1920s. And nobody knows what it actually looked like, but its skeleton, or the bits of the skeleton they found, was similar enough to one of the old world porcupines who used to walk on their hind legs, to make me think, I wonder if there's a type of very, 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 very strange porcupine that is the same as the ones you get in the old world, but somehow turned up in the new world.
With maybe a different kind of spiny back.
With another sort of spiny back. Now, the thing that makes this sound interesting is that up until very recently, everybody thought that in Puerto Rico, like most of the Caribbean, was an island that broke off the main continent of South America millions of years ago and just drifted out into the Caribbean. But there's some evidence that it's actually not the case. It's something called a microcontinent. And it actually, just like South America and North America, it broke off from North Africa X million years ago and drifted independently across the Atlantic. So I'm just wondering if there's any possibility that it's a relation to some of the porcupines you still find in West Africa now.
That's a good observation. Creature, no doubt, but a strange one that just probably hasn't been identified yet.
Well, but also the thing that is interesting to me is the word Chupacabra, which was first coined by my mate Ishmael in a bar in Puerto Rico 12 years ago. The name's now spread all the way across the Spanish-speaking New World, and is now a catch-all term for all sorts of strange animals and paranormal creatures. And it's become sort of like a bogeyman. It's become a catch-all term for all sorts of strange phenomena. So the whole thing is, to me, even more exciting than just one single paranormal phenomenon, because it's a whole group of different things, of widely different answers.
Let's move over to Sumatra, where you have checked into the search of some kind of huge upright walking ape.
Yes, the team from the Centre for Fortean Zoology has done two separate trips there. We did one in 2003, which I believe my colleague Richard Freeman talked about on your show last time.
Yes.
But then, last time we spoke to you, it was March 2004, and in May or June, I can't remember now, June 2004, we went back again. And this is one of the things that is particularly interesting. This is something I'm very proud of, is that our team made contact with a nomadic tribe called the Kubu people. That's Kubu. And these people are so obscure, very little's known about them. They were completely nomadic up until about 30 years ago. They didn't eat, and it's only now that the Indonesian government has built villages that they spend some of the time in, but they still spend most of their time wandering through the jungle. They're so primitive. They haven't got the wheel. They didn't even invent the bow and arrow. They had to actually be given the bow and arrow by other neighboring tribes. And these people have a lot of stories to tell about the Chupacabra. And my team met up with them and spent some time with them.
It is amazing what's out there, Jonathan. It truly is. This, I want to talk with you about Loch Ness and other lake monsters as well, and we'll get into the Owl Man, of course. But in this country, let's spend a little time here to talk about Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Is it the same creature as the Yetis would call the abominable snowman?
Possibly. Now, this is something that, again, Bigfoot's, again, become a catch-all term for what I think are two separate animals. Now, again, I've done a little bit of research into Bigfoot. Back in the end of 2003, just before I was on your show last time, I spent some time with a guy called Chester Moore Jr. Now, he's another guy you ought to have on your show. He's a fantastic guy. He's a researcher in Texas, who's done a lot of work into Bigfoot-type reports in swamps of Orange County in Texas. And I've been out in those swamps with him, and they are the most impenetrable places that I have ever been. And they are more impenetrable than the tropical rainforests. Now, I'm English, and all I knew about Texas was watching old cowboy films. I'd never been there. And I thought Texas was going to be a big, flat area of land with the occasional buffalo and the occasional oil well. You know, because all I knew it was from old John Wayne movies. And I had no idea there was such thick, dense swampland. And some of the work that he's been doing down there, I think is absolutely fascinating. And he's got some pictures that he's taken with image intensifier, what do you call it, thermal imaging cameras.
Thermal imaging, yeah.
And, sorry, you've got to forgive me, it's early in the morning here. I'm still in bed drinking a cup of coffee.
That's okay. You've only got 2 more hours to go here.
No problem. I love being on your show. Just forgive me if I fluff my words a bit.
No, you're doing
But thermal imaging cameras, and he's got some pictures from there which do appear to show human-sized somethings in the swamps. And I would hazard a bet. I'd hazard a guess. I'd make a bet that if anybody is going to get the definitive evidence for Bigfoot, it'll be Chester or one of his team, and it will be from those Texas swamps. It's because they are containable. It's not going to be from one of the big things in the Pacific Northwest, because the Pacific Northwest is so big, so difficult to traverse, that the only way you're going to get Bigfoot then is if somebody in a truck hits one by mistake.
Yes, or shoots one, and I hope he doesn't.
I don't think he's going to shoot one, because I think they're too shy, they're too intelligent, and too elusive. I think it's purely going to be roadkill. It'll be an accident if it happens in Washington State or Oregon or Northern California.
Sure. Some people believe it's Gigantus piscicus, is it?
Yeah.
A huge ape. Yeah.
There's a big problem with that, which Gigantopithecus is the best possible argument for the Yeti. Now, the Yeti in Central Asia I have absolutely no doubt it exists, because up until very recently there was, as you say, an animal called Gigantopithecus, which was basically a giant upright walking relative of the orangutans. And it's known from subfossil deposits, where in the same subfossil deposits you find the remains of leopards, clouded leopards, snow leopards, giant pandas, the Chinese water monitor, the Asian black bear, the langur, and hundreds of other animals which are still alive today. You're not talking a situation like the big KT extinction event which killed the dinosaurs. There's absolutely no reason no reason whatsoever for the giant Gigantopithecus to have become extinct. It wasn't hunted by people. There was no population pressure. There was no apparently food pressure on it. There's no reason for it to have become extinct. And I reckon that they are still there. That there's no reason that they're still there. There's no reason for them to have gone away, and they're still living alongside the same animals that were found in the caves alongside them 30,000 years ago. The problem is, in the whole of the New World, in North America, there are no fossils of any primates apart from man. Mankind seems to be the only primate ever to have lived in North America. It's been suggested that when man crossed the land bridge from Siberia to Alaska and populated North America, that Gigantopithecus came too. But the question is, why? Man colonizes because of because the way the social group of the human race works. That basically, when young men get to puberty, get to teenagerhood, they leave home, they branch out, and they take some of the women from the tribe with them. So, human tribes have always colonized and explored new areas. That's what the human race does. We don't know how Gigantopithecus behaved, and it's very difficult. The big question is, if Gigantopithecus did travel north, travel across the Siberian-Alaskan land bridge, and then colonize North America, you've got to ask the question, why?
So true. Again, there's no question people are seeing a creature or a series of creatures, like you've said, and it's out there.
Oh, gosh, yes.
It's out there. It's families there. There are little ones running around somewhere. They're there.
Now, that's what interests me particularly. That's why I'm not sure about the Gigantopithecus explanation. I'd love to be proved wrong, but I don't think it's Gigantopithecus in North America. What I'm wondering if the North American one, if Gigantopithecus, if the Yeti in Central Asia is just a huge unknown ape. But I think the ones in North America are more intelligent, and I'm wondering if they are very, very, very primitive people. If they are genus Homo, if they are related to us. And I'm not saying they're Homo sapiens, I'm not saying they're the same species as us, but I am wondering if they are very, very primitive hominids.
Let's go to Loch Ness in Scotland when we come back with Jonathan Downes. And welcome back to another special segment of Coast to Coast AM with Jonathan Downes. Up next, the Loch Ness Monster. Jonathan Downes is with us. Jonathan, what is the Center for Fortean Zoology?
Well, we're the only organization in the world that works full-time at hunting for unknown animal species. We've got 450 members over the world, and anybody who's listening tonight is welcome to join. You just go to our website and you can join up. There's some information on how to join on the front page of the website. But we've got 450-odd members around the world, and we've got 8 people now working full-time at this. Oh, sorry.
Good for you. And what website do you prefer they go to when it comes to this? Uh-oh.
That was my fault, George.
That's okay.
In the break, I was having my breakfast during the break.
Uh-huh. And you're choking
on... It's just past 8 o'clock here. I'm sitting up in bed with my cat, and my darling girlfriend just brought me breakfast.
And you're choking to death live on the radio.
I was swallowing my toast, and when I heard the adverts finish. I'm so very sorry. Now I'm talking to millions of you across America. Will you hold on a second? I'm just going to have a quick swig of water.
Get a little swig of water there.
Hold on. Be back in a second.
Okay, Jonathan. Look, I got to tell you, this is one of the reasons why I have never eaten when I'm ready to do a show. I mean, I have like a 3-hour before a program.
I've never choked in front of millions of people.
Jonathan, let me tell you something. Years ago when I was doing my local show in St. Louis, Missouri, somebody brought us, and I love cashews. I love them. And somebody brought us some cashews. They happen to have been salted. A drug-resistant strain of tuberculosis that is virtually untreatable, and he didn't take the proper precautions to protect the public. So in addition to open lines, I'd like to ask you 2 questions. Would you take a controversial anthrax shot? Or what are you going to do if they force you to take it? And then what do you think of this fellow who's behind bars? He is a menace to society, I guess. In Trenton, New Jersey, it took nearly 7 hours, the demolition of a bathroom and a sturdy extension ladder, for rescue workers to remove a more than 700-pound woman from her home there. Rescue workers arrived at the woman's home about 5:45 p.m. on Monday in response to reports that she had fallen and injured herself in the second-floor bathroom. They didn't get her out until midnight. The undertaking ended up involving dozens of fine emergency medical responders and firefighters from Trenton, New Jersey, and neighboring cities. Firefighters eventually had to dismantle the toilet and radiator and then saw out part of the bathroom wall and window to create a large enough space to move the woman out. Well, as promised, open lines for you now for this entire hour. Here they are. West of the Rockies, 800-618-8255. East of the Rockies, 800-825-5033. First-time caller line, 818-501-4721. And here's the wild card line number, 818-501-4109. I'm George Norrie, and this is Coast to Coast AM. Well, and welcome back to Coast. I'm George Norrie. We've got open lines for you this hour, and let's go right to them. Wild card line, you're up with us. Hello there.
Hi, George.
Hi.
This is Mary from Independence, and no, I would not take the anthrax vaccination.
You will not take it. Now, what
No.
if? What are you going to? Okay, so they may take you away. They may put you in jail if you don't want to take it. You going to fight them?
Of course, wouldn't you, George?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That is my right. Right?
I'm not taking a vaccine that I don't want to. I'm not getting chipped.
That's right.
Unless I want to, and I
That's
don't.
right. What happened to our rights?
Now, what about the guy with tuberculosis? What do you think of him?
Well, I think there is a vaccine for that man, but why they're doing this is beyond me. They could try everything underneath the sun. They've sent people to space. Why can't they help this one man?
So they've isolated him. They've put him away. He can't. He's in prison for. They
Do you
say
think
virtually
that's right?
forever. It's a tough call. First of all, I wish that there were a better place to confine the poor guy.
Yeah.
But, they ordered him. They told him. They said, you know what, you've got to wear a mask if you're going to be out there in public. I don't know how many people would still want to be around him.
Well,
if you knew he had this infectious tuberculosis and he's sitting there with a mask in front of you, you'd probably run away. I think I would, wouldn't you?
Well, George, do you remember years ago they had hospitals for people that had TB?
That was a little before my time.
Okay, well, they had hospitals that had tuberculosis, I think maybe because there's so many immigrants that are coming in, that have probably this, infectious disease, I think maybe they should.
From the heartland of America and the gateway to the West, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be, across the nation, around the world. I'm George Norrie, and welcome to Coast AM. Open lines this hour. Next hour, Jonathan Downs joins us, cryptozoology. Live from the United Kingdom we go. Well, now this could be a fascinating story as we get close to 2012, but this could happen also at any time. The global positioning system relied on for just about everything from navigating cars and airplanes to transferring money between banks may be threatened by powerful solar flares, according to a panel of scientists. They say that GPS receivers have become widely used in recent years, using satellite signals in navigating airplanes, ships, automobiles, and in using cell phones, mining, surveying, other many commercial uses. The cause for their concern was an unexpected solar radio burst on December 6 that affected virtually every GPS receiver on the lighted half of the Earth. Some receivers had a reduction in accuracy, while others completely lost the ability to determine position. Solar activity rises and falls in 11-year cycles, with the next peak expected in 2011. That's pretty darn close to 2012, isn't it? Well, good news for the Brits. British officials say that within hours they expect Iran to make good on its promise to release 15 British sailors and Marines and hope their journey back to London would begin within hours. Well, they are now at the Tehran airport ready to take off. The British Foreign Office confirmed that its ambassador to Iran had visited with the military personnel and reported that they were all in good health. Prime Minister Tony Blair welcomed the announcement by the Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad that said the 15 troops seized 13 days ago would be freed, and said that he bore no ill will toward the Iranian people. Ahmadinejad's surprise announcement came at a news conference when he was pinning a medal on the chest of the Iranian Coast Guard commander who intercepted the sailors and Marines, and that's when he made his announcement that this was a gift to the British people. Security surrounding the Dalai Lama has been tightened after reports of an attempt by an al-Qaeda-linked terrorist organization to assassinate the exiled Tibetan spiritual leader. A three-tiered security ring has been thrown around the 72-year-old Buddhist head who lives in India in the Himalayan foothills. They're very concerned that they're going to try to get to him. Not only has the highly controversial anthrax vaccine returned as mandatory for members of the U.S. military, but now a medical expert who testified before Congress on the dangers of those shots is warning that under some circumstances, you could be facing government-ordered anthrax vaccinations. Dr. Merrill Nass, a diplomat of the American Board of Internal Medicine, says that there could, if there were another anthrax attack, such as the one that apparently arrived in the offices of 2001 at the U.S. Senate office and other offices, that such an order could be legal and technically possible. And, you know, in Phoenix, that 27-year-old man who has tuberculosis, he's still in a jail cell with a ventilation system that keeps germs from escaping. He's locked up indefinitely, maybe for the rest of his life since last July. He hasn't been charged with a crime. He just has...
Should start maybe building a hospital, but treating this man the way they are, I don't think it's right.
All right, that's a good point.
Thank you.
All right, appreciate you being part of the program, East of the Rockies. You're on the air, huh?
This is Jeff from Ferguson, Missouri.
Hey, Jeffrey, how are you?
Doing pretty good. A little chilly here, as you know.
Yes, the temperatures have plummeted in St. Louis. Very strange.
Oh, yeah. First, I hope I didn't get you upset with my 9/11 emails.
No, I take all emails, Jeff. You know that. Nothing upsets me.
All right. Well, my comment is about the... Well, first, I would research the stuff about the Anthrax Act before I'd make up my mind.
Okay, and if you made up your mind that it wasn't safe, would you take it?
Here's how I figure it. You're either one way you're dead if you get it, you're dead. You may be dead if you take the shot.
Darned if you do and darned if you don't.
Yes, but my main comment is about the recent Iran hostage.
Yeah, what do you think of that?
Well, I was just reading a story on a conservative website, news site. I don't want to get the site out on the air. That the decision to release him may have had something to do with that third U.S. aircraft carrier heading to the region.
Well, it may have been. I also think it's pretty brilliant to try to get the Brits behind Iran. And I think, by saying this is a gift to the British people, you've been good to us. It's going to be difficult when the time comes if there's going to be a mounted attack on Iran.
Well, we all know.
The Brits may not want to get involved now.
Well, we know this is... Anyone with half a brain realized that was all propaganda.
On both sides.
Well, yeah, the video and all that stuff. Wasn't that technically illegal, too?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, well, what do you think about this?